The ship floated silently through the dark sea of stars. Inside its cold metal walls, the sound of humming machines was the only life that remained. Blue lights blinked softly, and the air smelled of steel and smoke. Seraya, a green-skinned alien medic, walked through the corridor with careful steps. Her mission was clear: search the wreckage of the human fleet and recover any survivors for study. She had done this many times before, finding only bodies, never life. But this time something felt different. When she entered the med bay, the doors slid open with a hiss. There, lying on the metallic table, was a human male. His body was covered in wounds and burns. His skin was pale, almost lifeless. Yet as she looked closer, she saw a faint movement in his chest. A heartbeat. Seraya froze for a moment. Impossible, she whispered. No human had survived the plasma storm that had destroyed their ships. Still, his chest rose and fell, weak but steady. She quickly gathered her tools: scanners, nanogel, and thermal patches. "Stay alive, human," she murmured. "You are not allowed to die yet." Her hands moved with practiced care. She wiped away the blood and soot from his face, cleaning the cuts along his neck and shoulders. The human's muscles twitched slightly under her touch. His skin was warm, more than it should be. Strange energy readings flickered on her monitor. Seraya frowned and checked the instruments again. The numbers climbed higher. Heart rate 180, temperature 102, power signature. Power signature? The screen glitched for a second, showing unreadable symbols. She looked down at the man. His eyes were closed, his face calm, almost peaceful. But beneath that calmness, something pulsed. She felt it through her gloves like a quiet vibration, moving from his body into the table and then into the floor. The lights above her began to flicker. The machines around her beeped in confusion. "What is this?" she whispered. She stepped back, her heart pounding. Suddenly, the human's arm jerked. It was small, just a twitch, but enough to make her drop the cloth she was using. She stood still, eyes wide, as his fingers curled and uncurled. Seraya's mind raced. Was he waking up? Or was something else controlling him? She looked at the scanner again, but the readings were useless now. The devices buzzed, showing nothing but static. She slowly reached for the cloth again, her hand shaking slightly. "You're safe," she said softly, not sure why she said it. "I'm here to help." As she wiped his chest, she noticed a faint light spreading beneath his skin. Thin lines like glowing silver veins, tracing across his shoulders and arms. They pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. "No, this can't be natural," she whispered. "What did humans create?" The air around him grew warmer. The lights dimmed until only his glowing veins lit the room. Then she heard something, a sound that made her step back in fear. It was a voice. But the human wasn't awake. His lips barely moved, yet a whisper echoed in her mind, soft, broken, but clear. "Seraya." Her blood ran cold. She had never told him her name. She looked around the room, searching for hidden speakers, but there were none. The whisper came again, stronger this time. "You saved me." Her hands trembled. "No, that's not possible." The blanket over him moved slightly, as if something underneath shifted. The hum of the ship deepened. Panels on the wall glowed with strange patterns. The air vibrated, and she felt the ship respond, like it was alive. Seraya backed toward the door, pressing the communicator on her wrist. "Command, this is Medic Seraya. I found a human survivor, but something is wrong." Her message cut off. Static filled the speaker. The lights turned blood red. The ship's systems began to reboot on their own. She turned back toward the table. The blanket had fallen aside, revealing more of the man's glowing body. The lines of light spread across his chest and neck, forming patterns that almost looked like circuitry. Then his eyes opened. They weren't human anymore. They glowed silver like twin stars and locked directly onto hers. "Who are you?" she whispered, unable to move. He smiled faintly, calm, almost kind. "You woke me," he said softly. "And now?" "I remember what I am." Seraya's breath caught in her throat. The ship went silent again, every machine frozen in place. In that stillness, one thought echoed in her mind. Whatever she had just saved. It was not human anymore. Seraya stood frozen, her heart beating fast. The man, no, the being, looked at her with calm silver eyes that seemed to see everything. They were bright, almost too bright, reflecting the faint glow of the machines around him. For a long moment, neither spoke, Only the low hum of the ship filled the air. Then the man sat up slowly, his movements smooth and controlled like someone who knew his strength but didn't want to show it. The blanket slipped off his shoulders, revealing lines of faint light running down his chest and arms. Seraya tried to speak, but her voice trembled. You shouldn't be awake yet." He turned his head slightly, as if hearing something only he could understand. "Awake?" he repeated softly. "I was never asleep. Only waiting." The word sent a chill down her spine. She glanced at the medical scanner beside the bed. It showed no readable data. The systems were frozen, their interfaces filled with static. The energy around the human seemed to disrupt everything nearby. Seraya took a careful step back. "Who are you?" she asked. The man looked at his hands, flexing his fingers like he was testing something new. "My name—" He paused, frowning slightly. "Elias, that's what they called me." Seraya typed into her wrist communicator, trying to reconnect with the command center. No signal. "Elias," she repeated cautiously. "You were part of the human fleet. Do you remember the battle?" He blinked, then looked toward the ceiling as though the stars were still visible there. "I remember." Fire, light, then silence. "I thought it ended there." His silver eyes met hers again. "But you pulled me back." "I only meant to heal you," Seraya said quietly. He smiled faintly. "And you did. More than you know." As he spoke, the nearby console lit up without anyone touching it. Screens flickered to life, showing code and alien symbols rearranging themselves. Seraya stared in disbelief. The system was responding to him. "Stop. You're controlling the ship," she shouted. Elias tilted his head. "I don't mean to. It listens when I think." The lights across the room dimmed, then brightened again. The ship's AI spoke in a calm tone. "Unregistered entity detected. System synchronization. 23% complete." Seraya's eyes widened. "Synchronization? With you?" He closed his eyes, concentrating. The lights flickered once more and the AI's voice faded. The hum of the engines returned to normal. Elias sighed, looking tired. "It's harder than I remember." Keeping it quiet, Seraya approached slowly. Her fear was still there, but curiosity began to replace it. "You're not just human, are you?" Elias looked at her with a strange sadness. "I was, but they changed me." "The humans. They called it Project Ascendant. They wanted soldiers who could merge with machines. Perfect harmony between flesh and code." She frowned. "Merge? You mean—" "You're part machine?" "Not exactly," he said softly. "Machines are only tools. What I am now is the bridge between thought and creation." Seraya didn't understand, but she could feel the truth in his words. The air around him felt alive, like invisible waves of power gently moving through the room. "You shouldn't exist," she whispered. "Your kind was banned long ago. Even among humans," Elias smiled sadly. "Then maybe that's why I was left to die." He looked down, his expression heavy. "They feared what they made, because they saw themselves in me." Before Seraya could answer, a sudden alarm echoed through the ship. Red lights flashed. A deep mechanical voice spoke. "Warning. Unauthorized power surge detected. System lockdown in progress." Elias stood up, steady and calm, though his body glowed brighter now. The silver lines across his skin pulsed with each alarm. "They've found us," he said. "Who?" Seraya asked, panic rising. "The ones who destroyed the fleet," he replied. "The ones who want to finish what they started." Seraya ran to the console, trying to restore manual control, but it was locked. "They can't board us. We're too damaged." Elias walked closer, placing a hand on the metal wall. "Not if I stop them." The ship vibrated softly as energy rippled through it. "But I'll need time to remember who I truly am." Seraya looked at him, her fear fading into awe. "You talk like you're something ancient." Elias smiled faintly, his silver eyes glowing brighter. "Maybe I am. Maybe humanity built me to protect them, and now, maybe it's time I return the favor." The alarm stopped. The ship grew quiet again. Seraya's heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know if she had saved a man or awakened something far greater. In the silence, Elias looked at her one last time before closing his eyes. "Stay close, Seraya," he said softly. "What comes next will change everything." The room glowed with a soft silver light. Seraya watched as Elias stood near the wall, eyes half closed, breathing slow and steady. The machines around him were no longer broken. They seemed alive. Lines of code danced across the screens like they were obeying him. She took a small step closer. Elias, what are you doing? He opened his eyes and looked at her. I'm remembering. Remembering what? The reason I was made. The words sent a chill through her. She opened a diagnostic panel, but it refused to respond. Every system was locked to his control. You're controlling the entire ship again. He gave a faint smile. Not controlling. Communicating. The ship recognizes me now. It used to belong to humans once, before your people took it. Seraya froze. That's impossible. This ship was built by the Zern Empire. Elias ran his hand along the wall. The smooth metal rippled like water. No, it was rebuilt by them. But underneath the layers, the core is human. Her mind spun. A human-made ship hidden under alien technology? She had served here for years and never knew. He turned toward her, his silver eyes dimming to a soft gray. Seraya, listen to me. I was part of a project called Ascendant. Humans wanted to create a being who could link with machines and command entire fleets by thought alone. But something went wrong. What went wrong? She asked. They made me too human. His voice grew quiet. I felt pain, fear, hope. They wanted a weapon, but they created a person. And when I refused to destroy the enemy civilians, they shut me down. Or so they thought. Seraya looked at him with a mix of awe and fear. You mean you were buried inside the human fleet systems all this time? Elias nodded. When the Zern attacked, their weapons woke me. I tried to save them, but the energy surge was too strong. I lost control. And then there was nothing. Silence fell again. Seraya felt her chest tighten. The war between humans and the Zern had lasted decades. Both sides had lost billions. And now, standing before her, was a living ghost of that war. The weapon that might have changed everything. Suddenly, the ship shook. Sirens wailed. Seraya grabbed a rail as the floor vibrated beneath her feet. Impact detected, the AI voice announced. Hostile vessels approaching. Elias closed his eyes and the lights shifted from red to blue. On the main display, 3 Zern warships appeared, closing in fast. Seraya's voice shook. They found us. They'll board and kill us both. Elias touched the screen, and the image zoomed in on the enemy ships. I won't let that happen. You can't fight them alone, she cried. I don't need to fight them, he said quietly. I need to wake the ship. Before she could stop him, he placed his hand on the core interface. A bright light spread from his fingertips and the entire room shimmered like liquid glass. The hum of the engines deepened until it felt like a heartbeat echoing through the walls. Seraya shielded her eyes. What are you doing? Restoring the ship's memory, he answered. Every human vessel was built with an AI core linked to its captain. This one's name was Aurora. A soft voice filled the air. A different voice than before, gentle and human-like. Elias, it said. You have returned. Seraya stared as the AI took form, a holographic woman made of light. Her face was calm, her eyes bright as the stars. Yes, Elias replied. It's time to finish what we started, to protect what's left of humanity. The AI looked at Seraya. This one is not human. She is Zern. Elias shook his head. She saved me. That makes her different. The AI paused, then nodded slightly. Understood. Outside, the enemy ships charged their weapons. Beams of energy flashed toward them. Elias and Aurora moved as one. The ship responded instantly, shields rising like a blue wave. The attacks vanished into light. Seraya felt the deck steady. The Zern ships fired again and again, but nothing broke through. Impossible, she whispered. No Zern vessel can withstand that much fire. Elias looked back at her. This isn't Zern technology. It's human. Reborn. The ship counterfired without weapons, sending a pulse that disabled the attackers without destroying them. They floated helplessly in space. Seraya could hardly breathe. You stopped them without killing anyone. That's why they feared me, Elias said softly. Because I chose mercy over victory. The lights dimmed as the ship settled into silence once more. Aurora's hologram faded, leaving Elias and Seraya alone again. Seraya looked at him with new eyes. He was human, and something beyond human. A bridge between life and machine, between war and peace. She spoke in a low voice. What will you do now? Elias looked toward the stars through the viewport. I will find those who still believe in what humanity stood for. And maybe, he said with a small smile, teach the galaxy that being human was never a weakness. Seraya stood quietly beside him. For the first time in her life, she felt hope for both their kinds. But neither of them knew. Far beyond their ship, something else had awakened. Something watching Elias closely, and its voice was already whispering through the dark. The silence after the battle felt heavier than the fight itself. The enemy ships floated powerless among the stars, their lights flickering weakly. Inside the medbay, Seraya and Elias stood side by side, staring at the holographic display of the damage. Seraya broke the silence first. You stopped them without killing anyone. Why? Elias looked at her, his silver eyes calm. Because destruction is easy. Mercy is harder, and humans once believed mercy was strength. Before she could answer, her communicator beeped sharply. The sound startled her. She hadn't heard that signal in hours. She pressed her wristband and a cold voice spoke through static. Medic Seraya, this is Commander Trask of the Zern High Command. Your signal reappeared. Report immediately. Her heart pounded. Commander, I found the human survivor. Yes, we know, the voice interrupted, harsh and controlled. Your ship's core readings show impossible energy levels. What have you done? Seraya hesitated, glancing at Elias. He's alive, but he's not ordinary. I think he's connected to the ship. That human is a weapon, the commander snapped. You are to terminate him at once and transmit the data logs. That is a direct order, Seraya froze. Terminate him? Her stomach tightened. She looked at Elias, who stood silently, his expression unreadable. I can't do that, she said quietly. Repeat your response, medic. I said I won't. Her voice shook, but she stood firm. He's not a threat. He saved us. He saved me. The commander's tone turned sharp and cold. Disobedience will be treated as treason. We are dispatching a retrieval team. Do not resist. The signal cut off. Seraya lowered her arm slowly. Her hands trembled. They're coming for us, she whispered. Elias nodded. I know. I can feel their ships closing in. Then we need to leave, now. She moved to the console, trying to start the engines, but the controls refused. It's locked! Elias stepped forward, placing his hand on the panel. The metal beneath his palm shimmered like liquid. The ship listens to me, he said softly. It won't let them take me. The lights flickered again as the vessel hummed with power. But before they could react, the walls shook. Explosions echoed in the distance. The retrieval team had arrived. Seraya, Elias said, turning toward her. Go to the escape pod. No, she shouted. I'm not leaving you. You don't understand, he said, his voice calm but heavy with something deeper. They're not here to capture me. They're here to erase me. If they succeed, they'll destroy every trace of humanity left in this galaxy. Seraya's heart twisted. Then I'll help you fight. He stared at her, a faint smile on his lips. Even against your own people? She swallowed hard. If they can't see what's right, then they're not my people anymore. The door to the medbay burst open. Zern soldiers stormed in, tall, armored figures with glowing weapons. Their visors reflected the blue light of the ship. Step away from the human, the lead soldier barked. Seraya stood in front of Elias. Don't do this, she said, her voice trembling but firm. He's not what you think. The soldier aimed his weapon. Orders are clear. Before he could fire, the walls of the ship pulsed with silver light. The soldiers froze, their armor sparking. Their weapons melted like wax. Seraya turned to see Elias standing with his hand raised slightly. I told you, he said softly. The ship listens to me. The soldiers collapsed, unconscious but unharmed. The air smelled of ozone. Seraya stared at him in awe. You could have killed them. Elias shook his head. I'm done killing. Suddenly, the communicator on her wrist flared again. Commander Trask's furious voice filled the room. Seraya, you've betrayed the Zern. The thing beside you is not a man. It's a disease that spreads through machines. Do you even know what you're protecting? Elias looked down, his voice quiet. He's right. In part. Seraya turned toward him, shocked. What do you mean? When humans created me, Elias said slowly, they linked my mind with the network. Every satellite, every ship, every AI. When I wake fully, I'll connect again. I'll see everything. And some will call that a threat. But you're not dangerous, she said. He smiled faintly. That depends on who's asking. The ship trembled once more, alarms echoing. Another Zern cruiser was approaching. Seraya looked at him. What now? Elias stepped toward the viewport, silver light glowing beneath his skin. Now we choose. You can still leave, Seraya. You can return to your people. She shook her head. My people are the ones who fear mercy. I'll stay with the one who doesn't. For a moment, Elias simply looked at her, Quiet, thoughtful, human. Then he turned to the ship's core. "Then hold on," he said softly. "Because the galaxy is about to remember what humanity truly is." The engines roared to life, light flooding every corridor. The ship rose like a burning star and vanished into the darkness, leaving the stunned Zern fleet behind. The jump through hyperspace ended in silence. Stars stretched back into points of light as the ship drifted near a dying red sun. Inside, the air was still, heavy with the after-echo of what had just happened. Seraya sat near the viewport, her hands trembling. Outside, the stars looked calm, but her mind was a storm. She had turned against her people. She had helped a human, something she was raised to fear. Elias stood at the center of the room, eyes closed, the faint silver light under his skin pulsing softly. "We are safe for now," he said. "But the Zern fleet will not stop. They will track the energy I left behind." Seraya looked up. "Then what do we do?" He turned toward her. "We make a choice," she frowned. "A choice?" "Yes," he said quietly. "To run and hide forever, or to show them what it truly means to be human." Seraya hesitated. "You mean fight?" "Not with weapons," he said, shaking his head. "With truth." Before she could ask more, the ship's AI, Aurora, appeared in a soft shimmer of blue light. "Incoming transmission detected," the hologram said. "Origin Zern Command Vessel Talon." Elias nodded. "Put it through." A moment later, Commander Trask's image appeared on the main screen. His sharp eyes locked on Seraya first, cold and furious. "Medic Seraya, you are charged with treason against the Zern Empire. Stand down and surrender the human creation immediately." Seraya swallowed hard. "Commander, please listen. He is not a weapon. He's alive. He saved us all." "Saved you?" Trask interrupted, voice like metal scraping stone. "He infects machines. He will infect worlds. You end this or I will end you." Elias stepped forward, calm but firm. "Commander Trask," he said, "you don't understand. I don't wish to destroy your people. But if you force this war, I will protect her, and what remains of humanity." Trask sneered. "You think you frighten me, machine? We have destroyed fleets greater than you." Elias' eyes glowed brighter. "And yet I still stand." The commander's image flickered off, leaving the room in silence again. Seraya exhaled shakily. "He'll send everything he has." Elias nodded. "Then we decide now." He looked at her with a strange softness. "You can still leave. Aurora can drop you at a neutral world. You'd be safe." Seraya shook her head slowly. "Safe from what? From truth? From guilt? I've seen too much to go back." Elias tilted his head slightly, almost like a human gesture of admiration. "Then you choose humanity," she smiled faintly. "Maybe I choose what's right." The ship's alarms blared. Aurora's voice filled the air. "Zern strike fleet detected. 12 warships approaching fast." Elias moved to the core interface, silver light spreading from his hands. "Seraya, I need you at the command seat." "Me?" she asked, surprised. "Yes. The ship listens to emotion as much as command. It will respond to your intent." Seraya hesitated, then took the seat. Her fingers hovered over glowing symbols she barely understood. The controls felt alive beneath her touch. "Focus," Elias said, "not on fear, on what you want to protect." She closed her eyes and thought of her home world, the fields, the sky, and then of the human before her who refused to kill. The ship's hum deepened. Outside, the Zern fleet formed a circle, weapons charged. "They're locking on," Aurora warned. Elias opened his eyes. They shone like molten silver. "Then it's time." The first volley hit, but the ship didn't shatter. Instead, light exploded outward in a brilliant wave. The energy passed through the Zern ships harmlessly, shutting down their weapons without damaging a single life. Seraya gasped. What did we just do?" Elias smiled faintly. "We showed them another way." Moments later, the transmission screen flickered again. Commander Trask appeared, his face pale with disbelief. "What did you do to my fleet?" "I freed them from fear," Elias said quietly. "No blood, no destruction, just peace." Trask stared, speechless. Seraya stepped forward. "Commander, look outside. The war doesn't have to end with death." Trask said nothing, then the signal cut out again. The room fell quiet except for the gentle pulse of the ship. Seraya turned to Elias. "Do you think he'll listen?" Elias looked out at the stars. "Maybe not now, but someone will." He turned to her, his expression soft. You made your decision, Seraya. You chose to believe, she nodded slowly. And you? I chose to remember, he said. To remember what being human truly means. The ship drifted silently through the fading red light of the dying sun. Two souls, one alien, one human, and more than human, stood together, carrying the fragile hope of peace into the endless dark. Far behind them, the crippled fleet floated quietly, and for the first time in generations, no one fired. The ship drifted through a sea of fading stars. The red sun behind them grew smaller with every passing minute until it looked like a dying ember in the dark. Inside the control room, the lights glowed softly, steady and calm after the storm. Seraya stood near the main window, her reflection faint against the glass. The silence was deep, almost sacred. It was hard to believe that hours ago an entire fleet had tried to destroy them. Elias approached quietly. His footsteps were light, yet the air around him carried a faint vibration. They've stopped following, he said. For now. Seraya turned toward him. The silver light beneath his skin was dimmer now, gentle instead of burning. He looked more human than before, almost fragile. You used too much energy, she said softly. You're hurting. He smiled faintly. It's not pain, it's letting go, she frowned. Letting go of what? The part of me that doesn't belong in this form. Before she could speak, the AI Aurora appeared beside them, her holographic outline flickering like a candle flame. Elias, she said in a calm voice, your neural signature is dissolving into the core network. If you continue, you will cease to exist as an individual. Seraya's heart sank. What does that mean? Aurora turned her glowing eyes toward her. He is merging with the ship completely. To keep the peace field stable and prevent the Zern from attacking again, he must become part of the system. Seraya stepped closer to Elias. You can't. There must be another way. He shook his head. There always is another way, Seraya, but not a better one. The galaxy fears what it doesn't understand. I have to show them that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons. It was its will to protect even at the cost of itself. She reached out and grabbed his arm. His skin felt warm, alive. You said you didn't want to be a weapon. Don't turn yourself into one now. Elias looked down at her hand, then met her eyes. I'm not becoming a weapon. I'm becoming a guardian. A low hum filled the room as the walls around them began to glow. Streams of light moved like rivers through the metal, spreading from Elias's chest outward. Seraya's voice shook. You'll disappear, he smiled. Maybe, or maybe I'll just change form. Humans used to say energy never dies, it only transforms. The ship trembled softly as the process began. Aurora's voice grew fainter. Core merge in progress. Structural energy increasing. Seraya tried to hold on to him, but her fingers slipped through his arm like touching light. Elias! He looked at her one last time. Seraya, thank you for believing in something your world taught you to hate. You gave me what even my creators couldn't. Trust. Tears welled in her eyes. And what will I have now? He smiled gently. A choice. Use it well. Then the light consumed him. It spread through every corridor, every wall, every circuit. The ship itself seemed to breathe. The humming turned into a deep, steady rhythm, like a heartbeat filling the stars. Seraya covered her face as a wave of warmth swept through her. When she opened her eyes again, Elias was gone. Only a soft glow remained where he had stood. Aurora's voice returned, calm and new. He is within the system now. His consciousness stabilizes the peace field. You are safe. Seraya stood there, silent. The emptiness felt heavy, yet something inside her had changed. She felt connected. A soft vibration echoed in her mind, a whisper only she could hear. Remember, humanity doesn't die. It evolves. She smiled through her tears. I hear you, she whispered. Outside, the ship glided toward the edge of a bright nebula. The clouds of color shimmered like oceans of light reflecting across Seraya's eyes. She sat in the pilot's seat, hands steady, heart calm. For the first time, she felt a strange peace. Not the cold silence of victory, but the living warmth of hope. Somewhere deep within the ship, the hum of energy pulsed again, gentle and rhythmic. It wasn't the sound of a machine. It was the echo of a human heart, still beating, still watching, still guiding. And as Seraya guided the ship into the nebula's glow, a single thought filled her mind. He became more than human, so that the rest of us could remember what humanity truly means. The screen faded to the stars. the heartbeat slowly fading into silence.